Hey guys, welcome to the Business Intel podcast with your hosts, Warner and Mario. And today we're discussing 4 topics. Number one is RV dealerships, Airbnb rentals is number two. And number three is Home Depot, or I like to call it Homey Depot. And then number four is mergers and acquisitions. Is it a good strategy? So Mario, start off with RV dealerships. I got something I want to add to that too.
Yeah, so I've been following this little RD. It's a used RV dealership. They sell some trailers, like utility trailers, flatbed trailers, and occasionally they'll have a boat on their lot. And when I've moved to California in 2021, June of 2021, there was like one or two RVs on their lot, one fifth wheel, one tow behind, like bumper tow RV, maybe one diesel pusher RV. So if you walked into that lot, I didn't stop and check out the RVs, but if I would have walked in there and wanted to buy an RV in 2021 of June, I probably wouldn't have been able to negotiate because there was literally one used fifth wheel on their lot. Right now, there's probably 12 fifth wheels, 15 diesel pushers, half a dozen tow behind RVs on their lot, a couple boats, tons of utility trailers. The thing is just exploding with, and I think a lot of people put them there on commission or on consignment. So he probably doesn't even have a lot of money tied up into these assets. He's just using it as a sales platform, this lot. And it just looks like the RV, it looks like a horrible time to be trying to sell an RV. And it looks like a buyer's market right now. What are you seeing, Warner?
So to add to what you're saying, when you're doing your ground intel, which is observation, what's really important to sort of tactically to do is to look at sort of an RV dealership or any other area like a multifamily property and look at it over time. Notice the patterns of life of that business or property or whatever it is. And what I mean by patterns of life is, for example, if I'm looking at a company like Earthroamer, same thing that you saw with this RV dealership, I'm looking at the top of the market before this pandemic, which was these $600,000 vehicles. They're basically an Earthroamer is like imagine an F550, one of the biggest Fords you can buy, diesel engine. They cut off the back of it and then they put on this huge box and turn into this like really outlandish, really cool vehicle. Yeah, you can take anywhere in the world. You can go in sub-zero temperatures. It's just a badass vehicle. Now, what you saw was before the pandemic, you saw these vehicles flying off the shelves. Then now you see, oh, there's 4 or 5 just sitting there. And how could I tell? Well, I was on the website watching one vehicle come on before the pandemic and then would go off. They'd take it down from the website on the pre-roamed section of Earthroamer, meaning pre-roamed, meaning like Earthroamer roaming. And now 5 are just sitting there. Living Vehicle, another trailer company where we purchased the vehicle, they have 5 used vehicles sitting there. In the past, they go on the site, off the site. Mario's seeing visually on the ground, there wouldn't be many trailers there. They would come onto the lot, they go off the lot. So when you're paying attention to the signals, most people are just zoned out on football and beer and whatever else. We recommend not doing that. We recommend spending your weekends walking around, looking at businesses and observing the patterns of life, because now you'll start seeing, oh, the economy's tanking. Because when it starts tanking the RV market and the used car market, I heard about that from George Gammon. His buddy said the used car market is just, he was doing like 30 sales a month. Now he's doing 2. So patterns of life is a huge thing when you're getting your ground intel. What does the area look like? What does the business look like? And has that business, the tempo of that business changed?
Yeah, and this is not only is this happening, across the country, but this is happening in the epicenter of RVing. You can use an RV in Southern California, Phoenix, year round. This is Bemidji, Minnesota. There's a season for RVs, and it would make sense that in the winter there'd be more RVs for sale than in the height of the summer when you can use an RV in northern Minnesota. But to see that explosion, it's a sign the economy is suffering, or people are scrambling to come up with money, and they're selling their RV in a place where you can use your RV every weekend in California, summer, winter, fall, spring. It's a 24 correction. It's a year-round season for RVing here, and we're seeing a massive explosion in that space where people are trying to unload these assets into a buyer's market. So looks like prices will probably go down in that space.
And what is that foreshadowing? Well, once you start looking at patterns of life in certain areas, what is that foreshadowing? It takes us into our next topic. Well, if travel is going down, because as you're observing, doing business intel, the reason we're sharing these, because business is business. Your business will be affected by this in some way, shape, or form if the travel industry dies, because that means purchasing power is going like this. And everyone's business has to do with purchasing. The consumer purchasing something, the business purchasing something, whether you're B2B or B2C. So as travel is going down, this takes us to our next topic. Airbnb thus is going down. Mario, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was talking this week with a track coach. I have a bicycle coach, but there's a physical trainer who ran track at Cal Poly, and she takes a couple vacations a year to wineries. We were talking about Temecula, Central California, Napa, and there's a winery region down in Baja California that she goes to, and she was showing me an Airbnb that she rents where 6 people stay, and she's like, it's a 125 a night. And I was thinking, she showed me the pictures, beautiful little house on a vineyard, and she was showing me the pictures of it, and I was thinking, oh, it's like, 125 per person. And she's like, no, 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 this is 125 for the entire house per night. And we started looking at the pictures. She started showing me other options, and I was like, wow, how is this possibly economic? That's basically covering the cleaning costs for that place to be cleaned up after a night of 6 people partying on a vineyard. So being in this space, that should be hundreds and hundreds of dollars a night, not $125 a night. So the Airbnb market just looks like it's extremely competitive. There's a ton of product on the market, and there's not enough people traveling right now to make it economically viable, in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting subject, because when you said 125 a night for a full house in a vineyard, we've done Airbnb with some of our real estate. And yeah, the thoughts that came to my mind was 125 a night. That's like a property, a full house on the vineyard. That's like 400 to 500 a night. So she was probably charging 300 to 400. I mean, this is just an assumption in the past for Temecula. So what you're starting to see is what Marian talked about in a podcast on a one or two ago, which is when you start getting into these not the most desirable markets in terms of, like, we talked about topography, we talked about location. The best location always commands the best money, it's insulated the most, like the Jackson Holes, like the Kailua, Hawaii, what else? The Los Angeles, Malibu, certain areas. They're such desirable areas that they're the last ones to get hit. But the outer line areas like Temecula, Big Bear, people are like, well, I don't need to go to Temecula. It's a nice place, but I don't really need to go there. So what you see is, because diesel prices are increasing, observation, food prices are increasing, that's hitting everyone's bottom line. So they're saying to themselves, hey, on the weekends, I'm not going to drive up. So as a business person, why is this important to you? Maybe you're doing really well, or maybe you're just scrapping to get along, get your business up. Well, it's important because, like I said before, it's like the consumer consumption, or the business's consumption power. Is that power going up or down? You want to start thinking in your business, oh man, it's going down. It's only a matter of time, especially in the world we're in now, which is sort of a global recession we're in. It's only a matter of time before it hits your business. So if you're blind to this stuff, if you're not, you need, what Mario and I are saying this whole podcast is, look at everything around you as a whole ecosystem that'll eventually affect your business. You do that and you look at everything around you, you'll be better prepared, like we learned in the military, to handle the ups and downs and say, you know what, I'm not going to expand right now. I'm not going to build another factory. I'm not going to up my prices. You know what? In fact, I'm going to drop my prices to get more customers in. I'm going to start taking these strategies. But if you're just going to go fat, dumb, and happy, thinking everything's going to be the same, and you miss the intel, well, the intel will sink you.
It looks like people are offloading experiences and assets that are not critical to maintain their life and their business, pay their mortgage. You don't need an RV. Having a single family house and having a mortgage, that's the first thing you're going to pay, not your not your payment on your RV or taking a weekend to go visit wineries. So those spaces just look like they're getting absolutely hammered. I was up in Big Bear a couple weekends ago. Would not want to own an Airbnb in Big Bear. Would not want to compete in that space right now. Not enough people going up there spending money on the weekends. And based on what I observed this week, talking to this girl named Jackie, is the winery space, doing Airbnbs out in wine country, very difficult to get people to come out.
Mara, you went out for a second. You still talking?
Yeah, I got you, Warner.
Yeah, you just went out for a second. Keep going. You're saying the wine.
Yeah, wouldn't want to compete at that. When you look at a business like Oracle, that's the last thing a company's going to cut is say, oh, we don't need cloud computing anymore. We're going to go back and run our own servers. They're going to cut expenses where they can. And that is a critical piece of infrastructure running almost every company in the world is data storage, cloud computing, access, software as a service, vacations, things that can be cut will be cut when there's blood in the streets, and things that can't be cut that are critical to maintaining infrastructure, critical to maintaining a business. Those are the spaces you want to be in and invest in and be able to ride out some storms. But now, yeah, Airbnbs, man, people that got optimistic a year or two ago and bought an Airbnb property thinking that they're going to make a spread on top of, what it costs them to maintain that property and to pay their mortgage. They're going to make this great profit. Boy, that is a horrible space to be in right now.
And what people don't realize about Airbnb, and we've talked about this before, because myself and my wife have done this. We've done Airbnbs with our properties. You'll see all these like not infomercials, but ads on YouTube. It just annoys the heck out of me. I see this ad. Oh, hey, you can do your Airbnb. You can make $150,000 a month. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes, dog. Pump the brakes. Like, first of all, you're talking to someone that doesn't know jack about real estate that's probably viewing you. You're getting them psyched up on this emotional connection that they're going to make money, but they don't even understand the Airbnb market. People don't understand. When I hear most people talk, there's actually two types of Airbnb markets, and people are like, huh, what? There's like the short-term, like sort of hotel style market for short-term travel, but then there's the long-term furnished rental market. And we're going to talk about that. We'll get to that, talk about intel on that in future podcasts. So if you want to hear about that, subscribe to the channel, like, comment. But anyways, let's roll on to
last point. I was out in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I was out in Hawaii at the start of the pandemic and through the beginning of 2021. Is that Ko'olina out on the west side with the Four Seasons? Is that the name of the place? Ko'olina. A Four Seasons, a property that's as good as it's going to get in Hawaii. A Four Seasons hotel on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world went under. They couldn't find enough customers to keep that. And there's Airbnb competition. There's other factors into this besides just the pandemic. But when you're in a space where the best players can't win, Thomas Keller had a restaurant in LA and he couldn't figure out, or it didn't work. The best player, the best chef in the world couldn't earn a profit in LA. These are spaces you don't want to compete in.
And that's actually an excellent point. We'll talk about this in another podcast, which is when you're doing your ground intel, your observation, look at how the best players are doing. Now, there's multiple things going on with Thomas Keller. It could be the best player just made a poor decision, or it could be the best player's doing everything he can, but it's just the wrong market. But we'll talk about that in a different one, because that's a fascinating topic. I'll write these things down. So let's roll to number 3, which is Home Depot. I'll just get into this one. Really interesting. I go to Home Depot about a week or two ago. I drive in and I'm like, and I wasn't paying attention because I have 2 kids and they're yelling, 2 young boys. And I roll into Home Depot, roll into the parking lot, and it's in Marina Del Rey, one of the largest Home Depots in the country. I think it's the largest, does the most sales in the country because about Los Angeles. And I roll into the parking lot and I'm like, man, it feels really, really nice in here. It's like there's like a lot of spaces. I didn't think anything of it. So and I see this security guard driving around. It looked like an armed security guard in a car driving around, like shooing people away. And I didn't think anything about it. And basically what had happened was, I think we lost Mara for a second. Hopefully we'll get him back. But anyways, guys, what I think had happened was, there you go, Mara. We just lost you for a second. Well, much better connection. Maybe sometimes you got to go in and out. But what I'm saying is, let's recap. So I'm in the Home Depot parking lot. The security guard is rolling around the car shooing people. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that before. Go in, get my stuff. As I'm checking out, this massive 6 foot, like 2, 3 guy, security guard with a bulletproof vest on, fully armed, ready for bear, loaded for bear. He walked by. I'm like, what is going on? I've never seen an armed dude. I'm like, am I back in the military? What's going on here? I'm in like Home Depot and there's an armed dude. I go back outside and the epiphany hits me. I'm like, oh, all the junk haulers that used to be in the parking lot are gone. And if you guys can imagine, if you've ever been to Home Depot, you'll go on the periphery of Home Depot. There's all these like old school trucks. I mean, old school, like Mexican, South American trucks, like old Toyotas with beds on them, flat beds on them. They're beat up and they got like a rackety, like metal railing around the side. And they're like hauling junk, Ramirez junk hauling, whatever it is. Right. And that turned into like, it started getting so big that it was junk hauling and it was other construction services. Then it was bums hanging out. I mean, dudes just doing whatever in the parking lot. They just show up for the day and park their rig, like beat up rigs, RVs, and then it's all gone. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, interesting. This is a data point. This is a ground observation. Home Depot is kicking out all the riffraff that's bringing in nefarious activity, probably some drug use, all sorts of other stuff. And then they're putting armed security guards in their store. So like we said, the pattern of life changed. Be observant. So what does Home Depot know? It could be the customer experience has gone down. They know the economy is doing this thing. It's going down, and they're like, we can't mess around anymore. We can't like operate on the kind of like the fringes where we just have this crazy economy. So we're going to let whatever we want into the store. Now we've got to really focus on our business strategy and our core customers, not these junk dude haulers or these crazy dudes coming in. We want to now we really want to like protect and sort of cultivate our customers. Thoughts, Mara?
Yeah, you're seeing trends from Mexico move up towards Southern California. I'm only an hour right now from the Mexico border. And as you drive into Mexico and you go to a grocery store, you're seeing armed security guards in a grocery store down in Mexico. I haven't seen that yet in a grocery store in Southern California, but you're seeing that same type of security presence now at Home Depot. And there's a reason. It's becoming more like Mexico. Our economy, our culture, the crime, the kidnappings. What is happening is that crime, that as the economy is going lower and lower and lower, people are becoming more desperate. People are desperate for jobs. People are desperate for resources. And you're seeing that type of security posture in a Home Depot that you would have seen a decade ago or 5 years ago if you would have crossed the border down in Mexico. So it's creeping up. That crime, the desperation, and the security that goes along with that. You don't go into Mexico City and hang out with nice vehicles without security. Where you go, where you shop, what you do is all related to how secure it is. And now you're seeing that in LA, you're seeing that in San Diego, you're seeing that around Southern California. I don't know, Bemidji, Minnesota. I don't know if you go, to safer parts of our country. You can leave that in the comments if you're seeing this show up other places. But Southern California is becoming more like Mexico, and you're seeing that with security in Home Depot.
100%. And as you're getting your this is another ground intel observation. You want to start thinking. You just, like, get out of your if you're in this. I'm not saying you are, but if you're in a marijuana induced state, because you can't get out of that immediately, because it's not going to help you. If you drink too much alcohol, get out of that immediately. If you're sitting on the couch too much, watch too much TV, get out of that. We all get caught there. Not Mara and I in weed and alcohol, but it's just relaxing too much. We get caught there. Thing is when you dull your senses, you don't take in the outside patterns of life. You don't take in the periphery. And as a business individual, you're committed to building like businesses, creating financial freedom. Then it requires keeping your mind, body, and senses on point, because then you'll go, oh, Home Depot changed their pattern of life. What's going on here? What does it mean for the business? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for my future business? What does it mean for my investments? That's how Mari and I are thinking in our heads. Most people are thinking, oh, there's a big security guard. He looks scary. No, guys, no. We want to change the way you think. What does this data point tell me about the business environment? That's the whole point of this podcast, giving you ground intel, which is observation, signals intel, which is like on the internet, anything coming across that electric signal, and then human intel, talking to other people. So that takes us to our last topic, which is mergers and acquisitions. I found this on the internet, because I was reading about these companies and all these mergers and acquisitions. Like, oh, that's great. But this professor, I forget the guy's name. I'll pull up the article and post it here on the comments below, or not in the comments, but in the description below. This professor looked at merger, and other people have done this. Other like research institutes have looked at mergers and acquisitions, how effective they are, and most of the time, 75% of the time, they're not effective at growing your business. So this is signals intel. What I get online, I got some intel that could help me with my business. Mergers and acquisitions are not good, and I want to get your take on this, Mario. What does work? The most effective thing a business can do is what Red Bull did. Look, has Red Bull bought another drink maker? I don't think so. What has Red Bull done? The most effective thing, they created like the different colors of Red Bull. They created the sugar-free Red Bull. So the most effective thing a business can do is create a new product, then go into a new market, then create a new market, basically expanding on its own brand. But bringing in another brand, a tack-on brand, is very risky. I know there's certain situations where it works. Mario, your thoughts for business people listening to this?
Innovating from an idea and getting it to critical mass and then milking it like heck is the best way to make a profit if you can do it. A lot of companies, they're one-trick ponies. They got to go out there and do acquisitions. And that's okay too if they're doing smart acquisitions that bolt right onto their business and they expand it through acquisitions. What a lot of companies don't do is the post-mortem, is looking at what were their decision criteria, what did they pay for the acquisition, and then how did it turn out, and then before they go do another one, relook at that, pull that thing out every couple of years and relook at what was our assumptions, what did we pay for it, and how did this turn out, and was this a smart acquisition. There's other factors too to acquisitions that potentially could be profitable. It doesn't look like a profit on the surface. It looks like, man, we overpaid for that. It was not a good acquisition. Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft, told a story about a little company they acquired back in the 80s outside of San Francisco to compete with IBM. Horrible acquisition, horrible decision to buy this little company. However, one of the chief engineers they got in that acquisition basically wrote the entire code to Windows 95. So on paper, it was a loss. This was not a good acquisition. However, they were able to pull out some talent, and that gentleman wrote basically the entire code for Windows 95, which was a massive, product for Windows in the mid 90s. So, you like to see businesses growing through R&D and growing through organic means, but sometimes they go after, even like Coca-Cola, they went after a movie studio trying to kind of become a marketing play for their product like Red Bull does. And I think they owned Paramount. They owned some major, in the 80s, they bought some major movie studio. Horrible acquisition. They had to unload it. They have no idea how to make movies. They're in the beverage space. But they were trying to kind of create momentum towards advertising. So I think doing postmortems is a critical step when you're looking at companies and how they acquire things, and if it was a good move or not.
And what we'll do, and I know we have a huge list of things for this podcast. What we're going to do in another podcast, we're going to look at Red Bull, because Red Bull is an exceptional example of how they grew their business. When they grew they basically took dirtbag sports, because I was into mountain biking, I was into skiing. They were considered dirtbag stoner sports, unless you're like ski racing. There wasn't really mountain bike racing, wasn't really a big thing. They took a drink brand and made that drink brand synonymous with adventure sports. Yeah, I mean, and then they created a marketing arm without buying a studio, where they had other videographers GoPro, whatever it is, that could create these environments. I mean, we're going to talk about that, get the signals intel on Red Bull, because it's just an exceptional business. Now, what Mario is talking about is a business like Texas Instruments, where they just tack on another factory. It's just, you don't see it. It just ups their supply. It works. Now, one other thing to add, which Mario pointed to and talked about in this article, the main reason why a lot of these businesses, the merger acquisition doesn't work, is because they pay too much for it. So what happens is, maybe a company's got cash, and instead of listening to themselves And what to do with that cash? They go out to an investment banker. This is how it happens a lot. It's the investment bankers. Yeah, I'm pointing the finger at you. The investment bankers say, hey, we can get you this great company. It'll be great for your business. No one really analyzes it like you talked about, Mario. And then they overpay for it. It's like trying to bring two cultures together, and then the thing blows up. And most of the time, mergers and acquisitions don't make it. We'll see what happens with Microsoft and LinkedIn. That'll be really interesting to watch. But I mean, this is, you're never going to make a perfect decision. But what we learn in the military is after action. Go back and look at what happened with other mergers and acquisitions. But at the end of the day, really know your brand, your core brand, or whatever you're investing in. Know it really, really well. And really go, if I add this on, does this add to the culture of my brand? Does this add to the investors? Am I getting a good price? Make sure it's a bolt-on acquisition that just slides in. It's just a really good fit. And that's what I have to say on that, Mario. Any final thoughts for today's podcast?
No, that's it. You can land the plane order.
Guys, appreciate you listening. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe, like, and comment. Get this message out to the world. If you would like us to discuss any topics, or if you're seeing anything on the ground, you're talking to people, seeing anything on the internet that would be beneficial to helping people make better, smarter business decisions, we appreciate it. Talk to you guys next Saturday.